Feeling a little relaxed. I want to say first of all, graduate school. Graduate school is a feat of some magnitude. Congratulations. We wish you the greatest of success. You've been really receiving a lot of information. I was there this morning too for those of you that were at the International Welcoming event, which I thought was really well done. I hope you appreciated the information you got, but it's a lot of information. And I want you to know that all of that information is available to you by other means. If you didn't absorb it all, it wouldn't be surprising. We have a website solely for the orientation that's under the Graduate Studies and Research website. And we have, this for example is being videotaped. So everybody in the afternoon has been videotaped, and those tapes will be available if you want to peruse them again. But beyond that, the things from the morning, we don't have those taped, but we do have PowerPoint presentations that were presented. So for example, what Dr. Roldan talked about adjusting to life at the university, adjusting to life in the United States. I really believe that that's something all of you should have heard, whether you're international or domestic. I think the domestic students would have benefited greatly from hearing that student panel. The information they gave you was invaluable. So if you are a domestic student or you want to review as an international student that information, you can get it from the orientation website. A lot of other information from all of these different offices that you've heard from is available on their websites. We have this one, and GAPE has one that's different from ours. I represent the Office of Graduate Studies and Research, and I am here on behalf of Dr. Pamela Stacks, who is my boss and my mentor and my friend, who couldn't be here today, but wishes you well and offers her congratulations too. Some of the things, I'm going to try not to be repetitive. Now that I've heard the whole program, I know exactly what everyone else has said, so I'll try not to repeat anything, but there are some things that are worth repeating just for emphasis. You've heard this term provisional, and somebody used it along the way, and I'm not sure you knew what it meant. Your status when you come in is either provisional or clear. Provisional means that you have some document outstanding that you owe us, that we need for your admissions. If you're an international student, that document may very well be your final degree certification, which is your undergraduate institution's way of telling us that you actually have a bachelor's degree. We need that information. We need that verification from that institution that you actually have a degree, because our state law tells us we can't let you go to graduate school without it. So if you have any documents outstanding, please do your best to get them. We'll give you a certain amount of time, but not forever. We won't let you, for example, enter into your third semester paying 2 years or 2 semesters worth of tuition and taking classes and then finding out we're going to kick you out. So we won't let you get that far, which is, we feel, a benefit to you, truthfully. Please try to get them as quickly as you can. If you're not provisional, then you would be clear, a clear admit. But there's another kind of provisionality that's called conditional. So you can either be in a classified status, or you can be in a conditionally classified status. The conditional status means that your individual program has given you some things that you have to do before you're going to be considered clear. They're going to look at your past record. They're going to look at your the courses that you took as an undergraduate, and they may say, look, we really feel you need to take these few courses before you start your program. So they've given you some courses to take as conditions before you become fully classified. We don't have anything called unclassified. So at the graduate level, we don't. At the undergraduate level, we do. But at the graduate level, it means that you must be affiliated with some program. You can't float around with no major taking classes. If you have a conditional classification, you need to take care of those conditions as soon as you possibly can, because you are technically considered to be on probation while you have those conditions. If you do not fulfill the conditions, you can be immediately disqualified, and we don't want that to happen to you. So, with all of these kinds of things, if there's any misunderstanding at all, if there's any question, if there's any query, see your advisor. You've heard that a zillion times. It is really important to meet with your advisor. In order to make it through this process of graduate school, you need to immediately know what your program requirements are. Know what the classes are that you're going to be taking. Know what your culminating experience is going to be. Know who you have to meet. It's extremely important that you be aware of everything, and you're responsible for making yourself aware. You can go talk to your advisor, you can talk to your friends, you can talk to the faculty, but ultimately you are responsible for knowing all of the university rules. And there are a few of them. They are available, by the way, in the university catalog. They are available on websites, but it is your responsibility to find out about them. Most of them I'm going to tell you about right now. So know what courses you'll be taking. Meet other students in your department, in your program. This is something that you heard this morning from the student panel and from Dr. Roldan. The contacts you make in graduate school are likely to be ones that will serve you throughout your entire life. These are people who are that will serve as professional contacts later. They will also serve, of course, as personal contacts. But it's extraordinarily important who you meet now. Contacts that you can make in industry, contacts that you can make at other universities will all come about because of who you meet here in your program. Get to know your professors. This is really something that will come to bear later on your success, in the sense that when you do a culminating experience, unless you're doing comprehensive exams, so if you're doing a project or a thesis, you're doing research, that research is with a professor. That research is going to be closely supervised, and you need to know what's available out there and who you can work with, whose work you like, who you like personally. Getting to know your professors is so important for that, for getting a letter of recommendation later, for getting advice. You know, I always had a few students in every class when I was teaching who would make an extraordinary effort to get to know me, just so they would, you know, be able to get letters of recommendation from me, or they could ask to work in my lab. Really important for you to do that. Okay, I just said lab, so you might have an idea that I'm a scientist of some sort, and I guess I used to be, since I've been in this position now for 5 years, and haven't done any research in 5 years. I missed it a little bit, but anyway, I am a biologist by training, so I think in terms of organisms, and I think of the graduate student in terms of a life cycle. So the life cycle of a graduate student, and Tricia Faust from GAPE mentioned this a little bit. It starts off with your admission and getting rid of your provisions and your conditions. And the next major step will be advancement to candidacy. After that, you will fulfill all your degree requirements. You will do this thing called a culminating experience, which is required of all master's degree students in the state of California. And then you will graduate, hopefully. Okay, the first one was advancement to candidacy. The candidacy is considered a contract. It is the contract between you and the university, between you and your program. There are certain requirements to advance to candidacy. There's a form that is, it's called a petition, but there is a form that accompanies it. And in order to advance to candidacy and be able to submit this form, you must complete all your prerequisite courses. Those are those conditional kinds of courses that put you in a conditionally classified status. So then if you advance, you will automatically then be changed to a classified status. You cannot advance before you've completed 9 units of graded work. And that graded work must be an average of a 3.0 or above. And you must complete this thing called GWAR or GWAR. It's pronounced differently on different campuses. I tend to pronounce it GWAR myself, and it stands for the Graduation Writing Assessment Requirement, and it is the bane of many graduate students' lives because it is equivalent to competency in written English. It is more than that, but it is that in addition. And let's talk about it in a second. Let me finish with candidacy first. The candidacy form is down here. You see candidacy form is the petition for advancement to graduate candidacy. That's its official name. It's available on the GAPE website under their forms page, and you can download it, and it's fillable. So you fill this thing out, and then you have to take it to your graduate advisor. The advisor must sign it. So you can't fill it out and hand it in yourself, or we won't accept it. Each semester there is a deadline for when that form has to be turned in. It's really early. I don't know why exactly it's so early, but it is early. And it can't be done in your first semester, and it can't be done in the semester in which you graduate. So it needs to be at least 1 semester before you graduate that you advance to candidacy. Pay attention to that deadline and try to get this thing in on time. On the candidacy form is a listing of all the classes that you promised to take or have taken. The grades, the semester, it is a contract. It is all the courses that you need in your degree program to graduate, including the culminating experience courses. Because it is a contract, you can't put something down on the candidacy form and then blow it off and not take it. You have to take it. You can't discount it. It will count in your GPA. And at the end of the whole thing, your candidacy GPA is computed as well as your university GPA. That is, all the classes that are just on that form have to come out to be a 3.0 or higher average. And if you've taken any additional classes, those would be counted in your overall GPA, and those also have to be above 3.0. The candidacy form is where transfer courses come in, and I overheard this morning a question of Louis Gesnock of what you do if you have courses that you think might be eligible for transfer, and that is something I'll come to shortly. But all those courses that are been approved for transfer would go on your candidacy form. Your GWAR requirement, what you've done for that, will be on that form. So it's really a complicated little form that has everything on it that you must do. This thing at the bottom says no grade forgiveness at the graduate level. What that means is that while we allow undergraduates to take a course, not do very well, and if they take it over, we expunge the first course. We take away the grade. At the graduate level, we don't do that. All grading is done, all of this is done by grade averaging. That is, if you take a course and you get a C, you take it again and get a B, both of those grades are counted in your candidacy GPA. So they're averaged. Okay, here's this GWAR thing, competency in written English. There are various ways to satisfy this requirement on our campus. And you can see the Grad Studies website for a detailed rendition of all of these things. Also on the, I think it's on the GAPE website as well. If you hold a degree from a bachelor's degree, it has to be a bachelor's degree from any CSU campus, and there weren't very many of you. How many were there? Bachelor's degree from any CSU campus. There are like 7 of you. Oh boy. You guys are free and clear. You have already satisfied the requirement. That may seem unfair to those of you who went to some other school, which is just as good as a CSU campus. I went to a UC campus, and mine didn't count. Mine wouldn't count, the ones I took at the UC campus. So it does seem unfair, and truthfully, I think it is, but that's the rule. We have to follow the rules too. So these are rules that come down from the system, from the CSU. The CSU is a system of universities, or of colleges, that are all part of this university system. And when they make a rule, they call it Title V. And those Title V laws, which include this one, are state law. So when we say it's a CSU policy, we don't, we're subject to it too. We have to enforce it. There are other ways, though, that you can satisfy this requirement. And I'm not saying get out of the requirement. I'm saying satisfy it. The second way up here is to hold, or is to have written a sole authored publication, a paper. It has to be in a refereed journal, so it can't be, on your friend's internet page. If your friend makes a web page and publishes your paper, it doesn't count. So it has to be a real publication. The sole authorship is because if you've got a co-author or a series of co-authors, we just can't tell whether, which part of that you wrote, or whether you wrote it poorly and someone else fixed it. So it has to be solely authored. If you have a master's thesis from some other campus, that also satisfies the requirement. And that can be from anywhere. Also, by the way, PhD thesis. Sometimes we have people with PhDs come back to get master's degrees. So the vast majority of you will not be able to do any of those things, or will not be able to satisfy the requirement with any of these items. And some of you may have this last one, which is another way. And this is essentially to get a waiver of the GWAR. And that is, if you look over the courses that we have at this university that are used to satisfy the GWAR, and you think a course you took at your undergraduate institution is similar or equivalent or covers the things that we need it to cover, you can petition through your graduate advisor for a waiver of GWAR. So this is why it's an outside course, a course from somewhere else. You can't apply yourself. It has to be through your advisor. The reason for that is that even some programs require that you take these courses even if you have a waiver, any of these things. They may say, I don't care if you took 100W when you were an undergraduate. I need you to take this course now. I need you to take Biology 202. I don't care who you are or what you've done. And they'll make you take it, so they won't grant the waiver. They won't send in the petition. It's not punitive. It's because they think there's something that they're offering that's important that you need to get. But if that's not the case, and in engineering that's usually not the case, and most of you are in engineering, you can go to your graduate advisor, say, I took engineering 102E at Davis. I'd like to apply for a waiver. You have to jump through some hoops. And I am the hoop master of the GWAR waiver. All of them come through me. I'm the one who approves them, and I am not very easy about it. And the reason I'm not easy about it is that I think it's an important requirement. I think the courses are important, and I think that most of you can use some more work on communication skills, as probably I could. But we don't go there yet. The way that most of you will satisfy the requirement is through a course that is offered by your department. For example, in engineering, there's a course called Engineering 200W that is used to satisfy many GWAR courses in engineering. There are a whole slew of other courses. Some of them are content courses that have a writing portion in them. Some of them are methods courses, research methods courses. Most of them, or all of them, are supposed to cover more than just English. It's more than just how to write grammatically. That is a part of it, certainly, but it is not probably the most important part. To me, the most important part is that they cover a series of professional standards in your own discipline. These are discipline-specific communication courses at a very high level. You'll talk about how to do PowerPoint presentations, or how to do referencing and citation, and get permissions for illustrations and so forth. And they'll teach you how to write in the format of your discipline. And these things are things that aren't covered in an undergraduate English class, which is why we don't count English as a waiver for this requirement. All of you took English courses as while you're undergraduates, and certainly they aren't going to count. So there are a set of hoops to jump through. You have to have a B average in the course that you took if you're trying to get a waiver. You have to show me some writing samples, and then I decide whether I think that you could benefit or you're all right without taking one of our courses here. The courses are all listed on the GSNR website, Graduate Studies and Research website, and there's a table, and you can see it anytime you wish, and check with your advisor to see which one of theirs they might want you to take. Some departments have multiple GWAR courses. Okay, unfortunately, my office is also charged with overseeing the probation and disqualification policies on campus. I wrote part of the policy and charged with enforcing it. What happens is, as graduate students, we hold you to high standards. You must maintain a 3.0 grade point average in order to remain in good standing. Should you drop below a 3.0 grade point average, you will be put on academic probation. You have thereafter to get a 3.0 every subsequent semester until you've raised your overall GPA to above 3.0. Once you've done that, you're returned to good standing. Until you've done that, you're on continued probation every semester. One semester of failure to achieve a 3.0, and you're disqualified. So we're pretty strict, but we don't consider a B average to be that high a standard. You should be able to maintain a B in graduate school. Now, that is academic probation and academic disqualification, based solely on the 3.0 average. But within your department, there may be further requirements, further rules. For example, some programs require that you get a B in every single course. Even if your GPA is above 3.0, if you get a B minus, they'll put you on probation. Now that's probation in the major. It's called administrative academic probation. And they set the rules. They get their rules approved with the university, and they have to notify you of the rules. They have to be on their website. But those rules will stick. Now, that's probation and disqualification in the major itself. But you remember, if you're disqualified from a major, all of a sudden you don't have a major. You can't be unclassified. I mentioned that earlier. You'll have 1 semester to find a new program to get into, or else you'll be terminated from the university. Okay, so if you are disqualified, not from the program, but from the university, if you're academically disqualified, should you panic? So I put down here, no, because there's a reinstatement available. So if you go onto the GAPE website, Graduate Admissions and Program Evaluations, they hold all the forms for graduate school. If you go on their site, there's a reinstatement petition. If you're disqualified, you would take that petition to your advisor, discuss whether you which one of the reinstatement categories you qualify for. There are things there like extenuating circumstances, if you had a medical problem or if you got divorced, if you had a family member who was ill and you had to leave in the middle of the semester. There are various kinds of circumstances. We're not evil. We understand people have things happen to them, and we want you to succeed. We want to be accommodating to you. So we will very often grant reinstatement on that basis. If you don't have any one of those, you can take a couple of courses. You agree to a couple of courses. It's called a program of study with your advisor. He says, well, take these 2 undergraduate courses. They may or may not count in your graduate program, but if you get a B+ average in those 2, we'll reinstate you. We'll put you back in. You'll have your old GPA, but you'll be back in. So don't panic. There is reinstatement. But you only get 1 more chance. After the second disqualification, you're gone. There is no reinstatement after the second one. So don't let it happen twice, or I'll be knocking at your door. All right. The next major step after advancement to candidacy is, in your final semester, you complete your culminating experience. I'll talk shortly about culminating experiences. If you're a thesis student, and most aren't, but if you're doing a thesis, be sure to get that in on time. What happens is that the candidacy form is checked once you apply to graduate. So you have to fill out another form, submit it on time, and it's the application for graduation. GAPE, Graduate Admissions and Program Evaluations, that's what the program evaluations part of that stands for, is they do the checks of candidacy and graduation as well as admissions. So they're going to look over your record and say, okay, I'm going to compute your GPA. I'm going to make sure you took everything that's on your candidacy form. I'm going to make sure your advisor signed it. Everything's square. They will then, so that's the degree check. They will then post your graduation. It takes a little bit of time for them to do that after the semester. They got to wait for the grades to come in. Then they have to do their computations. It takes some time. There are 4,000 of you. And then they will have a diploma sent to you by the registrar. If you think you're going to graduate, you're doing this fairly early. You put in your application for graduation at a really early date, and then you find, wow, I can't finish. I didn't finish. Don't panic. It's not a big deal. There is another form, though, that you must file. It's a change of date for graduation. And you need to do that one so we know that you're going to be around for a little while longer. Okay. There are different culminating experiences on our campus. There's a pretty wide variety. Generally, they are of 3 types. There are a series of comprehensive exams that some departments give. They are generally pretty darn comprehensive. They are hard. It's not like you're getting out of anything by taking them. You have to study quite hard for those. The second one is a project. Generally, projects are 1 semester long, often team projects, especially in engineering. And you have a classroom setting. You design a project that you're going to do, you carry it out, you present it. That becomes your culminating experience. The third one is a master's thesis, which is the most in-depth. We encourage everyone to do theses. I review all theses, and that's the part of the reason that not everyone does a thesis, truthfully. When you do a project, the write-up that you do is in-house. It's looked at by your own master's committee, by the instructor of the course for the culminating experience, and the grade is given, pass or not pass, and it never goes beyond there. It never goes beyond the department. If you do a thesis, it goes through all those steps, but then it comes to graduate studies and research for review. And we review it to make sure that it represents the university well, so that it's well written, well documented. You have references where you should have references. You have permissions where you should have. If you are in a biology or psychology or some other fields where there's animal experimentation, you have to have permission from a board called the IACUC, the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. They have to approve of your project before it's begun. If you are doing anything with human subjects, you need approval by the Institutional Review Board, or IRB. And really, know at this point, even as early as this, if you are going to use human subjects, you cannot start your research without prior approval. You must have prior approval. If we get a thesis and we recognize that some of the work in that was done before approval, we will not accept the thesis. And the student will not be able to use anything in that thesis to do another one. So get IRB approval if you need it. I do encourage you to write a thesis. It's not like I reject that many. I think that our office rejects about 20% of them, but then they're rewritten and resubmitted for the most part. I am running out of time. Financial resources have been discussed by the Financial Aid Office. There aren't a lot of scholarships for graduate students. There are a few I'm going to mention. Generally, if you're, there are departmental scholarships that are offered. They're fairly small. Most of them are at most $500, but if you should see in your own department if there are any. There, of course, is aid and there are loans. There are campus jobs, but as you know, if you're an international student, you can't work off campus, so that means that the competition on campus for jobs is fierce. But there are jobs. I mean, the library hires a lot of people, and most of the offices that you've been hearing from all have a number of student assistants, so give it a shot, see if you can get a job. There are teaching and research assistantships that are given by individual faculty members or individual departments. Those are things that are also worth looking into. On our website, GSNR website, there are some student funding opportunities for graduate students. There are some more on the financial aid website, by the way, but they're fairly limited for graduate students. I did want to mention these few briefly. We have something called the Graduate Equity Fellowship, for which anyone can apply, including international students. They're need-based for the most part, and they require a certain level of writing proficiency and some experience in your field, some kind of either volunteer work or research work, something you've done kind of additional to your coursework. And we have about $50,000 to hand out. So we handed out either $3,000, $2,000, or $1,000 scholarships. It will be in the summer when these are applied for, and they're not that difficult to get. The CSU pre-doctoral scholarship, the second one up there, is available only to California residents, and it's only for $3,000, but it is $3,000 that can be used to prepare yourself to go to a PhD program. They want you in a PhD program, not an MD program, not an MBA program, a PhD program. And the reason for that is they are trying to get people to go somewhere, get a PhD, and then come back to the CSU to teach. We want to manufacture our own faculty this way, and so they'll give you money to go visit campuses, to take your GREs or other standardized tests, things like that. It is really, it's probably more seniors that would be interested in this, but if you're in a master's program and you're going to go on to a PhD, this is really something to look at. We have a shortage of people that apply for this thing, and I think the reason is it's on our website rather than on the undergraduate website. So you have an advantage. If you are going to go on, start looking at this your first summer, and you'll be eligible for the program. The Chancellor's Doctoral Incentive Program is similar in the sense that it is the CSU's way of getting people to come back to the CSU to teach. This is a really remarkable program, and one to keep in mind. It's called a forgivable loan program. The CSU will, if you're going to go on for a PhD, will give you a loan of up to $30,000, which is virtually enough to pay for your PhD. It's a very reasonable loan rate, even if you have to pay it back. But if when you're done with your PhD, you come back and you work in the CSU as either a lecturer or a professor, they will forgive the entire loan. You won't have to pay them back a cent. It is really a nice thing if your intention is to come back and teach. Finally, I want to mention the student research competition. The student research competition occurs every spring. It is, we have a local one, the San Jose State University Student Research Competition, where any student, graduate or undergraduate, who has done any research can present it. You present it to a faculty panel, and you make a PowerPoint presentation. It's quite formal, and we have up to 10 winners. It's broken down by discipline. So, for example, the engineers and the mathematicians are together. It's a nice thing in the sense that you get a chance to show off your work. You get a chance to practice in front of a faculty panel. And if you win, you are invited to attend the CSU Student Research Competition, where all the campuses send their winners. We can send up to 10 from this campus. We almost never have 10, but we would like to, but we need more people to participate, which is why I'm telling you about this now, so that you can keep it in mind. The benefits are pretty big in the sense that you get a lot of attention. You get a luncheon held in your honor where you get to give a little speech, and we do a poster presentation. Then there's the next year. There's another ceremony that showcases the work. Another ceremony in which you're introduced, and you get some accolades that way. There's also some money involved. We pay for you to go to the CSU competition, and usually a little bit more there than you need. And so it's pretty neat. I think most of the people feel that they really get a lot out of it. We'd like to win a few of these things. Okay, I'm getting near the end. Hang in there. as everyone said, adhere to deadlines. Sometimes we're kind of crazy about deadlines. We do enforce most of them with pretty hard. I mean, if something really rotten happens to you and you need us to consider if you missed a deadline, we'll do so, but some of us are more flexible than others about that. Make up your incompletes and your RPs. RP is something called a report in progress, and it is where you're doing your culminating experience, you didn't finish your project, your thesis. Sometimes it's expected that you don't finish, sometimes it's not expected, but you still don't finish. And you'll be given an RP grade, which gives you 2 years before you have to, 2 years to get the work done before you have to renew the RP. You can renew it after that, but there's a form to do that, just like there's a form to renew incompletes. For incompletes, you get 1 year. RPs, you get 2 years. The incompletes can only be renewed once, and the program doesn't have to renew it if they don't want to. RPs, they do. At the end of the whole deal, you have, and this is going to seem weird to tell you now, but you have 7 years to finish your whole program. 7 years. And you may think, oh my God, that's so long and that's so far away and there's no problem with that, but you'd be surprised how many people eclipse that. So, you know, you might get a job partway through and take off, and then you realize, I'd really like to have my degree, but 7 years has passed. There are a few things that can be done to mitigate it a little bit, but it's still, there are a lot of hoops to jump through, and most of the time you're going to lose your courses. So at the end of 7 years, your first semester's worth of courses goes away. It doesn't count anymore. You have to retake them. And then the next semester, the next semester after that, you lose the second semester that you took. University catalog is our contract with you. It is worth consulting. It is certainly worth consulting if anything happens unusually with you, then you want to look up rules and regulations. And it is something that we all abide by, including the administration. If something should happen to you and you need to be away from campus, the rule on our campus, the rule in CSU is you can miss 1 semester without any penalty. You can, if you're here this semester and then you miss the next one, you can come back the semester after that without any paperwork, anything that you have to do. That's called stopping out for 1 semester. We allow that. Anything beyond that is trouble. Anything beyond that is you're terminated from the university and you have to reapply for admission. To avoid that, if it's something that you have done where you are qualified for, if you're eligible for a sanctioned university leave of absence, then you should apply for it. The leave of absence is applied for via a form that's on the registrar's website. And you can apply for medical reasons, you can apply for educational reasons if you have to go overseas for to be at some seminar course, for example. We're getting a little bit more liberal about it, and if you have financial reasons, we will consider them, so it's worth doing that. The leave of absence not only lets you be away without having to reapply, it also interrupts the 7-year limit. So that 7 years is suspended for that period that you're on a leave. It's worth doing, it's worth knowing about. Okay. You've heard this time and time and time again. Check your My SJSU. My SJSU is our way of communicating with you. Check it often. I heard this morning from Melinda, who is one of the students on the panel, that you should also check your Facebook accounts. I'm an old guy. I don't have a Facebook account. I never wanted all the people that knew me in my whole life to get in touch with me. So I just never did Facebook, but I understand it. We're going to probably start our own little Facebook account with our department. But check it if you need to. But that is our way to communicating with you. If you filed a petition and you don't hear anything, go on that. It's probably there. We send messages all the time, all the time, probably more than you want, but we do send them. GAPE and GSNR, this is for my own sake, we are not the same. It used to be we were the same. We used to be combined, and that was 6 years ago. I came in 5 years ago. We were already separated. So they gave us this divorce, and truthfully, I've regretted it many times, but GAPE is at the Student Services Center. GSNR is in the administration building. So we're physically separated from them. We are related in some ways. I go over to GAPE twice a week, every week, for meetings and consultations with them. We are in charge of the policy and all the academic decisions that are made that are enforced by GAPE, but GAPE does the nuts and bolts. GAPE is responsible for, determining whether your transfer credit is in the right place. I might be the one that determine whether it's eligible, but they determine whether it's on the form in the right place and whether the advisor has signed for it and that sort of thing. So we oversee GAPE, but if you have a question along the way, if you have a question that says, I got this thing and it says I didn't advance to candidacy, I failed to advance, call GAPE. They're the ones you need to talk to. If you call us, we'll just say, call GAPE. So most of the time, you're going to be working with a specific evaluator who's in charge of your program there, and they are the ones that are going to be able to answer the vast majority of your questions. If you do call me, I'll try to be nice about it, and I will give you the answer if I know it, but they are the ones that generally are responsible for the things that are going to happen with you. So this is just to reinforce that. It's a description of what each of us does. I'm sure you can't even see it. And we do have separate websites, and those websites are important to visit. I want to thank Cheryl Cowan down here, who won't stand up, but maybe she will. She'll wave at you. Cheryl really organized this entire event from morning till night, and I'm so glad she's almost done, because I'll have my normal tempered assistant back after this. And Karen O'Neill is sitting next to her, you met this morning, who's the director of IPS. Let me tell you right now, I'm done with the facts. But we're all going to march back over to the Barrett Ballroom, and some of you were there this morning. Some of you weren't. We're going to go out these doors only, and there's going to be people out there who will lead you, and they're actually all the people from GAPE. So you get to know the people from GAPE, except Candy Simmel, who's already at the Barrett Ballroom. But we have three things going on simultaneously over there. We have a resource fair, which is a set of tables in which all of the offices that we thought that you would be interested in interacting with are sitting there, and you can ask them questions. If you want to ask Candy something, she'll be there. We have a poster session, which is a showcase of student research, which we hope is going up. We had some trouble with it this morning, but so you can just peruse through there and see what kind of research is being done by your fellow students. And thirdly, we have campus tours. All of you on your name badges should have an A or a B below your names. These are to tell you which tour you're eligible to take. An A is the first set, and the B is the second. The tours are going to start at the stand, which is a statue that's out on the lawn in back of this building. And the first tour will start shortly, so if you're on the first tour, you should go there right away. I think it'll leave in about 10 minutes. Okay. Okay, so my better half tells me that there'll be people that will lead you to that. Now, the tours will take about 30 minutes. So you'll have plenty of time to do the other things after. If you're on the second tour, there'll be an announcement made about 10 minutes before the tour leaves for you to leave the resource fair, the poster session, and go out and go on your tour. The tours aren't required, they're not mandatory, but I think you'll enjoy them. I think they're highly recommended. We split you up because they can only take so many of you, and because we can, you know, it'll make it less crowded over at the Barrett Ballroom where all these other things are occurring. If you have a B, don't go on the A tour, and if you have an A, don't go on the B tour. Go on the one you're assigned to. It will really be helpful to us. What else? Oh, following the whole thing, thank you, Karen. Following the next, it'll go on for about an hour and 15 minutes, the next, these three things at once. And after that, we have a reception for you with some food, and we're hoping that you talk to each other. We were hoping to actually have broken down by, did we get that up? Did we break them down by a little bit? We have a software engineering and a computer engineering. And so you could go to the area where you might find people from your own program and start getting to know each other. You know, I think I mentioned we were going to put up engineering, and it was like, well, that's everybody. So that wasn't going to be very useful. But we did break it down a little bit so you can get some food and some drink, and maybe your grad advisors might be there, they might not. That's not a duty day for them. They don't actually have to be on campus. But we invited them. Some of them will show. But again, welcome. I know it's a lot of information. I didn't mean to scare anybody, but everything will be fine. It just do well in your programs, and best of luck to you, and congratulations.